Thank you, and I apologize for being late.
Melissa Nickel.
Nice to see you.
Glad to give you a nickel.
That's easy.
At least we could keep ourselves entertained.
Yeah.
I'm ready,
All
Seth.
right, well, we will call this meeting to order. It's 5:22. We will start with roll call. Seth Hoffmeister, I am here. Ned Dorf.
Here.
Alder Randy Scannell.
Present.
Essie Fells is excused. Deb Hutchison is excused. Chase Highland, not present, not excused. Julia Nordyke,
Sorry, yes.
present. Stephanie Ortiz is excused, and Mark Walter.
Here.
All right, we will move
Oh.
on.
You remember your,
I took email Chase and his email was,
It bounced back?
yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll find out.
Okay.
We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a change.
There's a motion to change the agenda from Ned. Is there a second?
what's
For
the change?
discussion, I'd like to have our guest moved up so that we can respect his time.
All right, motion to move presentation from John to talk about BCCA moved up. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay.
Okay, hold on.
All right, and we'll put that after item C. Right.
And informational presentation. Oh, no, we have to do the
Approval of the minutes?
minutes, yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so
Motion to approve the minutes.
motion to approve the minutes is first from Randy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Julia. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are also
Okay.
approved as well. All right,
Presentation.
so John, why don't you take it away? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Please give your name and address. You can use your work address if you like.
My name is John Jacobs, and my address is 2373 Libel, Libal Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin 54301.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
actually in Alloway, but we'll go away. And I'm going to give a brief but important summary of the Brown County Conservation Alliance. And the alliance was originally formed and supported by monies from trapping, hunting, and fishing license. It no longer is, and it uses some other fundraising methods like a fundraising banquet or something like that to help keep funds coming in. But during the 50s and 60s, they got some pretty, and 70s, I suppose, pretty substantial amount of money from the fees that were charged for hunting, fishing, trapping. There's about 12 groups involved, and I think we got time, I'll read them off real quickly. And what the Conservation Alliance is just that. It's an alliance of a number of environmental, but mostly hunting, fishing groups that come together and discuss those kind of elements that pertain to hunting and fishing. A lot of them are political, but some are fundraising and banquets and programs and projects and research and that kind of stuff too. But I'd say most of them are political. Although the group is not a political action group, they don't support any particular party or candidate, but they support those people and legislation that support wildlife, the environment, things like that. Some of the groups: Clean Water Action Council, De Pere Sportsman Club, Southern Brown Conservation Club, Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters, Green Bay Trout Unlimited, Northeastern Wisconsin Audubon Society, Northeastern Wisconsin Beagle Club, Baird Creek Preservation Foundation. I got a couple more here. Wisconsin Wildlife Federation, Green Bay Duck Hunters, Brown County Isaac Walton League, Great Lakes Sports Fishermen, and there might be one or two that haven't been active and haven't shown up or whatever, but groups that have over 100 members pay $10 annual fee. Groups that are smaller than 100 pay 10 cents per member. And it meets the first Wednesday of each month at Barkhausen Wildlife Preserve from 7 to about 9 p.m. And it also owns some property on the bay of Green Bay where they have a duck hunting blind that's used pretty much by any public that gets there first for duck hunting during the season. The Brown County Conservation Alliance supports activities like Conservation Lobby Days in Madison. And in fact, this year it's co-sponsoring a bus to get people down there to Madison. It was supportive of a bill that just passed the federal Congress called the Land and Water Conservation Bill. It supports projects at Barkhausen Waterfowl Preserve and at other nature centers and nature sites in Brown County. When it comes to those smaller type events, they stick to the county, Brown County. But as you know, there's all kinds of state legislation that affects Brown County as well as the whole state. And so they want to know about that, they want to be involved in that, and even federal legislation that will eventually affect us here in Brown County. They help out with fundraising banquets, like recently the Green Bay Trout Unlimited Banquet. They were vocally and somewhat active against the Back 40 mine. Again, that's out of our area, but we feel it's going to affect us. They help to pay for wildlife plantings, plantings and fish releases. Last 3 years, they've helped pay for owl banding and research at Barkhausen during October. They've also helped to fund a red-shouldered hawk telemetry project. They hold a fundraising banquet and awards banquet every 2 years. And part of this is they're working on a wild game cookbook. And then at each meeting, they usually have a speaker on a related topic of wildlife in Brown County or something that will affect Brown County. And that's about it.
Yeah, I've talked to them a couple times. Does
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
does Conservation Alliance have a mission of some type, a formal mission, or is it?
They do, and they have it somewhere, and I couldn't come up with it for this meeting. And I tried to reach a couple of our longtime people, and I didn't get back from them. I didn't hear back from them yet. So
Janet must know.
Janet probably does. I think she's having knee surgery or something, because she was indisposed for a while and not her usual overactive self.
Okay, yeah, I saw her a couple of weeks ago, and she was still walking slowly with a crutch, but she said she was having some surgery done on her knee.
Yeah, and I think she had been done, because she wasn't at the last meeting.
Oh, right.
She usually doesn't miss the meeting, so.
Do you guys still do a roadkill banquet? I know.
They haven't done that for a long time, but I'm not so sure somebody might not resurrect that in the future.
I used to work with Jim Van Lannen, who was part of Conservation Alliance, and he always supplied a fair amount of, and he used to talk about the roadkill banquet, which is basically wild game in a
Yeah.
variety of forms.
Yeah.
It's a fundraiser.
Yeah, the only,
Can you eat skunk?
You can eat, you can.
some people do.
Do you want to? There's another whole issue.
as far as I know, St. Matt's Parish in Alloway has a wild game feed. And I think that's the only one left. Now, some other of these organizations will have not a shrimp fry, but a smelt fry.
Yeah. Southern brands.
Or some other, but I think the wild game feed has pretty well gone away, except for that one, and they usually have it in March too, I think. They have Beebles do the cooking for them, so it's popular. That they run the people in, feed them and kick them out and get the next group in, they're.
So that little piece of land that's at the end of Bay Shore Road, off of Lionel Bay Shore
Yeah,
Road,
yeah.
That's what they own? That's what-
Just a little piece.
Right.
There was a big discussion at the last meeting whether it's 40 acres or 4 acres. And somebody commented, well, it depends on what the water level is.
Yeah.
But it's only a couple acres, and it's just off to the side. It's
Yeah, it's
not
not-
connected at all with the major causeway going out to the islands.
No, I'm a Cat Island project manager.
Yeah,
so
okay,
they're-
so you know that, yeah.
No, and I know that DNR owns a small piece of land there in conservation lines. It's about 4 acres. It's
Yeah.
not 40
Yeah.
acre. And then Brown County Parks owns all around.
Yeah, they own a lot of that too. That's kind of an extension of Barkhausen almost.
And I heard that they were looking at the duck blind was originally designed as a handicap duck blind.
Yeah, it was supposed to be easily accessible, but a lot of trees have fallen over the trail, and they're
Yeah.
talking about how can we clean that up and do that and get, Barkhausen said they would help, but we'll see what happens, because those were kind of big cottonwoods and willows, I guess. And a lot of roots and stuff.
Sir, you mentioned support for legislation. We, as a commission, are in an advisory role to the city council and can send ideas for projects, ideas for possibly ordinances to the council. Are there things that you believe Brown County Conservation Alliance would like to see happening more on a local level?
One of the last things we talked about on the local level was Eagle's Nest is now up for sale for $1.5 million or whatever. And there's a lot of interest to make that a public boat landing site. The people who live in that area have some other ideas. I don't know what those are, but they don't necessarily support that. So there might be a little bit of give and take there as to whether that actually becomes a boat launching site. But several people said, there's a need to have these boat launching sites every 7 or 8 miles, so that if rescue teams from the Coast Guard or somebody has to go out, they have places that are closer to go out, so they don't have to go out at the mouth of the Fox River to find somebody 15 miles up the shore or something. So there's some good reasons for doing that, but we'll have to see, whether the money's available and where they can get that and do that and how much opposition there might be. But, yeah, a lot of these groups are bringing ideas and information in. Usually the way it works is, suppose Clean Water Action Council has an idea that they'd like either some help funding or some help promoting. They'll bring it to a meeting, will be discussed, then the rest of the groups take it back and talk to their groups, and then they come back with probably a yes or a no vote on whether we want to fund that or whether we want to support that or work on that project. A lot of the projects are pretty little and don't generate a lot of negative and positive. Most people agree, oh yeah, we should do this. It's usually when they get a little higher in the cost factor. Since the Alliance is not bringing in a lot of money, but they're maintaining, they have a healthy treasury and they're guarding it, but they're pretty level. It's not like that coffers are going downhill fast. But they, compared to what they used to get in, these small fundraising efforts that might bring in $200, $300, $400, $500, you know, compare, and I don't know exactly what the amounts were with the trapping and hunting license in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but they were only getting a small percentage of it, but it was a pretty nice cut, you know, to get that. And apparently all the counties in Wisconsin were getting a similar amount from whatever sales took place in their county. So, but that's not happening anymore. They all go to the DNR, which is fine. You know, a lot of these members, one of our reoccurring discussions is the loss of DNR personnel. Major, it's at least 50%. The loss of monies for the DNR, the loss of objective commissioners at the very upper level that have been appointed by the governor, the loss of even respect for scientific research and discussion. That was there for a while and now has been banned. You know, you can't talk about that. Can't talk, you know, we can't put it on our website, you know. Global climate change or whatever, you know. So, as a group, we're trying to keep those items in the discussion before it's too late. So, any other questions? Thank you, Ned, for kicking me up a little bit. I think I can get out there before my parking meter expires. I punched in about 45 cents. I was just telling this woman next to me that, you know, if you put like 3/4 in, and then, oh, I got $1, I gotta get a quarter, so, and you run over and get another quarter change, and you come back to your meter, it's gonna reset. And so when you put that 4th quarter in, it doesn't go to $1, it goes back to start. So now you gotta
That's
put all those
interesting.
quarters. Well, like tonight, I got 5.
Why aren't the roads better then?
Yeah,
Surprising.
I got
It
5.
doesn't go to roads.
I had 5 or 6
parking money's
minutes
separate.
on my
Yeah.
meter. And I thought, well, I'm gonna start putting my money in. And I put a nickel in and it went to 4. Because it restarted. I lost that 5 minutes and it restarted.
That's
Use the
that's
app.
bizarre.
I suppose. I'm
Never heard of that.
semi-computer literate. Semi. I mean, I can get by with some things, but boy, if it's new and different, it might take me a long time.
Is there a way that any of the projects that Brown County Conservation Alliance works on are broadcast, or are they promoted online?
Brown County Conservation Alliance does not have a website or a Facebook or any other social media, thank you,
I
or
just
any other
looked.
social media.
No digital footprint.
Partly because, except for the new guy representing the same group that Seth is with.
Oh, Casey,
Wisconsin.
yeah.
Oh,
All the rest of the guys are my age, or gals and guys, are my age or older. And for some reason, we just don't use computers because we never knew about them until a few years ago. And when you're older than the trees in Wisconsin, that's a bad statement on the logging practices.
See, I tell you, my dad's 88 and he owns 3 computers and a cell phone.
There's exceptions to every rule.
yeah, my mom too, actually.
Yeah, there's people out there. He probably, as those computers developed, got new ones each time, didn't he? He was always a computer.
Well, yeah, we had my first home computer in 1976.
Yeah.
That was actually
Apple II?
well.
Mhm. It was before Apple.
No, I was gonna say, that's before an Apple too.
That's pretty cool.
You probably had a,
99 for a.
yeah, a
Before
little
Atari is
cassette.
before.
Did you have a little cassette that you put in?
Took up half a
Well,
room.
actually,
And
no,
it
you had to
would-
plug a cassette tape player into it, you had to plug your TV into it to see things.
Oh, okay. And it was all DOS or
It
whatever.
was all basic. It wasn't- yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. that's-
Thank you so
That's
much.
it.
Where is
Thank you,
that
Jen.
today?
Thank you very much.
Long since gone by.
That's too
Jen, are
bad.
you
That's
coming
like a
down to Lobby
museum
Day
piece.
in a couple weeks?
I don't think I will be. For me, I do a lot of field work,
Mhm.
and I'm one of the projects that the Conservation Alliance is supporting. I work on red-shouldered hawks. They're a threatened species in the state. And a couple are back already,
Cool.
but usually I'm heavy in either preparing or I'm already out in the field, getting my feet wet, getting ticks. Mosquitoes
That
won't
takes
be.
you off.
Yes, it does. Mosquitoes won't be around for a couple months, but the deer ticks, I should just note this. What Brown County Conservation Alliance should have done is ban all the deer ticks from coming in Brown County.
Maybe we support that.
Because I never got them at the reforestation camp, up until,
Oh.
maybe 12, 15 years ago. But during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I didn't get any ticks at the reforestation camp. Now, I just gotta go out there right after the skiing season, and I got 5 or 6 of them.
Mm.
I had 3 or 4 embedded in me this past year. My wife got a couple of these little tiny, they look like a tick crowbar.
Tick crowbar.
They're green, and they got a little fork like that, tiny, I mean, not quite microscopic.
And you pry 'em out?
And what you do is, you slip that under them, even though their head or the actual mouth parts are embedded.
Mhm.
You slip that under them, and you start turning, and you turn and you turn them and spin them around, and for some reason, they pull out. I don't know if you're unscrewing them or what, but it gets them out without leaving the head in, the mouth part elements. And I'm a believer. We got 3 or 4 of those things around the house now, because
It sounds
they're tiny.
painful.
No,
They're
but
Tick?
I will,
You know.
Well, I know they're tiny, but I mean,
Smaller
you're
than that.
poking that in you and you're.
well, you're just clipping it around their shoulders, their head part.
Right, but that's still in your.
The point is, but I will mention this, when the tick's in you, you don't feel anything, don't feel a thing. But then when you get that out, then it hurts for whatever reason, I don't
Well,
know.
you just got done spinning.
Yeah, maybe that's it. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Jen.
Sure, you're welcome.
All right.
Are you the president?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. I'm the representative for Northeastern Wisconsin Audubon Society.
Okay.
And I'm one of the board members for Brown County Conservation Alliance. Janet Smith is the president.
Okay. I should know that.
You should know that. You can take I got more recycling guides. You can get them.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty good stuff.
All right, I'll take one of those. Thank you.
So with the Audubon, you're gonna fix the roads?
Yeah, not that kind of Audubon.
We don't care about the roads, only the Germans do.
Did we move all informational up or just that?
Just
that Just that one.
Just that
Yes.
one, okay.
So I'll go to regular business.
Cool, yeah, we'll move on.
Yeah, get some real work done now.
Thanks.
Yep,
Thank you, Jen.
Thank
you
you so
bet.
much.
All right, moving on to item B then, regular business. Discussion with possible action on a request from us and assigned staff to have the final authority to submit grant applications on behalf of the city.
So what is it? Sorry, can you?
So, but do you wanna explain that?
This is something that I've had in mind kind of over the last year. when there was a grant that came out last April from the Public Service Commission, a pot of $5 million, and it was for local governments to implement renewable energy, basically, or energy conservation practices. And I brought it to the city, to the county, to the school district. The county and the school district both put in submissions for the grant. County was successful, school district did not get it. But the city, I did meet with park department staff, and because of the tight timeline, they were hitting some, it was due, like it came out in April, it was due in June. Because of the timing of city council meetings and trying to coordinate other staff in different departments, it just wasn't feasible for the city to complete the grant on time, get permission first of all from the council, and then complete the grant on time with the council's permission. So what I would like to see us doing as a commission, because I think it was expected of us to look for money for conservation projects, because it won't be coming out of the city budget. I would like to see us as a commission have some authority to write and submit grants that have to do with our mission. So that's why I am bringing this up now. Hopefully that grant comes out again next month and we can start working on it right away this time, get something in on time, and get some projects going over the next year for the city. So I think it's urgent. I think we need to start considering this now so that it can go to council and we'd have some authority starting hopefully next month.
Yeah, I had a question related to like this whole thing about, because working with other municipalities, but here you do have to go through council. Even if a department wanted to submit a grant, they have to get approved to even go through that. It's like, they can't just.
Yeah.
What Improvement and Service in Parks usually does, they submit a lot of grants, same thing with, so economic development, community and economic development, they have several committees. So what they usually do is they say, hey, we are applying for this grant to do this particular work. So it does eventually filter to council that information. If that answers your question.
So timelines are challenging, and for
They
even
can't.
But I
3
don't know
months
if
is
they go
challenging,
through
so that's a
council,
little worrying.
they can go through council as informational, not
Yes.
just, they can go
So-
through council as informational if council.
Right, because usually there isn't any action that the council or the committee takes, but rather, hey, we've applied for this grant. So Parks they apply for tons of grants.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
basically tell the committee that they have applied for this grant or that they're about to apply for a grant so that they're informed. Because the grant
Not really
dictates
permission.
activities, but,
So like if we're working
and of course, if
with
there's
Public
any
Works.
matching
Right.
money, if there's any kind of money that the city would have to be obligated to
Oh, yeah.
spend,
Then-
that
then-
makes
that's when
Right.
council
Yeah.
would have to approve it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Do grants have to be approved at least tacitly through the budget process ahead of time? If you know, like a year in advance or something like that, you
No.
can apply for something next year?
I mean, when you apply for
Ma'am,
a grant, though, you have to put on there who's applying for it, like as the fiscal entity, like the
Mhm.
Fiscal
agent-based
agent.
entity. So who would be that in this case then?
So usually.
If it was the sustainability.
It would
commission
be,
doing it.
so the city of Green Bay would
The
have
city
to,
of-
yeah.
Okay.
All the grants I've seen, it's usually City of Green Bay, and then there's sometimes a name. A lot of times there's a name of someone in the department who's managing the grant.
For the grants where it requires the city to match or the city to put in some work hours or put in, staff time, I guess.
In kind.
Thank you. In kind. I believe that would still need to go to council for final approval. Um, So in that case, I would like to see us be able to, at least start the initial processes for some of those, start writing them up, without waiting for council to say it's okay for us to start working on them.
Why, what is preventing us from doing that, though?
Or advisory.
That's a good question. I don't
Because
know.
if I was, again, working with the Public Works, I could just help them write the grant, but it would be coming from them.
Right.
But wouldn't that, but I can't imagine, what project would we go out for where it would just be us starting it, like, rather than working with some department within the city?
We'd
Or
still
the
work
mayor's-
with the department. So, for example, that grant that we looked at for solar last year, it's still, like, Park Department was behind it. They supported it, but it required, it had the line for what is the city going to kick into this? And it was gonna be staff time, basically. So they still needed to wait for council approval, right? I don't know, so correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if we can even start working on a grant like that, technically.
Sure, why not? You could start writing anything.
Sure,
You would just be
We-
working.
it just might all be for naught if council doesn't approve it, but sure, we could start. There'd be no,
I mean, is there anything?
And actually, you don't have
I mean-
anything to give to council until you start writing stuff with people. That's why
Right.
I'm just like.
Well, we'd be
what
asking,
authority are we asking
we'd be
for that we
asking
don't have
departments
help
to be
this
working
way?
with us
right.
before getting approval from council.
Yeah.
That this
Well,
grant would even.
is that-
Right, but no, I think if we're gonna, if, it's gonna be the committee that's actually doing, all we're doing is we're being an auxiliary to the committees, to the departments. We're an auxiliary to the departments, everything's gonna be going through them. So they'd be going to the council for permission, through their committees and council for permission. We're just writing up the grants to give to the department, basically.
I don't know that we can necessarily always write them separately from we need department input, we need.
Right, we'd be working with them. We're like an auxiliary of, we'd be talking to that parks, let's say we're gonna be talking to parks, and we wanna work on this grant. I'm sure they're gonna say, great, we'll do that, and they will take care of all the committee and then council. We're just, whatever work we do is gonna be given to them, and they'll be funneling it through. So we don't really, as a sustainability commission, we're not even asking for permission, because we're not really doing anything on our own. We're just helping out a department, facilitating a department getting a grant that will then follow through the regular channels of,
But in
city
this,
governance.
It's say in your example, what authority would, if what we got approved, whatever this new authority, how would that actually help the Parks Department in the 3 months anyway, get through this process faster? Like what is missing to make that happen? You're gonna have to involve the parks in some way anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So then, that's why I'm saying is there.
So what happens is though, if sustainability wants to pursue a grant,
Sure.
right? We'd have to basically report out, we'd like to pursue a grant. Then it would go to Parks Committee, then it would go to the Parks Department to decide if they want to work on the grant. So essentially so we'd have to take this extra step by reporting out, we want to pursue Acme grant, right? Instead, we would just say, well, we're going to work with Parks. Here's a grant that's come up. It would have to go to Parks if it's a Parks type of endeavor. It would have to go to the water utility, which is a little different because they're a little separate. It would have to go to the Transit Commission, let's
based
say.
differently.
Right.
It cuts out a month of waiting
Yes.
for approval to even start. That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking for.
Well, but I don't even
Why
see,
can't, no, I think that's the opposite.
right, I
feel
think we're
like
bringing
it's
it,
just rather you go on the side and work with them on the grant.
Right.
And they go through that.
why do we need to go through council? We don't.
Why do we have to go through the commission to?
Would we
To go
have
to-
to?
Right, we could just be, like I said, an auxiliary to a department. We can go to we're not gonna start writing up something for parks if they're not interested. We're gonna go to parks and say, we found this grant, we'll help you do it. And I'm sure they'll say, fine, then we work with them, we do, and everything, they would take it as far as whatever needs to go to committee and council.
Then
So
older,
it's-
it wouldn't be an
we're-
action of the
It
commission.
would be an action of the commission.
So we wouldn't be able to talk about anything like as an agenda item?
Sure, we could talk
or
about it as an
But
just
agenda
then,
item.
informational?
what
Sure.
Commissioner Dorf is saying is that then there's a month.
Yeah. I think anything to streamline the process would be good, because the same exact grant from the Public Service Commission
But
is gonna come up.
if we're going through council before we even go through, we're not streamlining, we're adding
That's
on.
what, I need a diagram, like a
Yeah.
whiteboard. Like-
What I'm saying is that we have to wait at least a month before we can even start a grant as things are right now.
Why?
Why?
That's
If we're
why.
working with a department, we have to let them know we want to, we want to start the grant, okay, then they have to bring it to that commission or that committee.
Really?
Then that goes to council, then it comes back to us
You just
saying,
don't
yes, we
talk
can
to
start
the-
it.
So that,
No.
once again, so.
Okay, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but
Well,
this is my
Let me just
understanding.
finish. So
Okay.
if, you know, it certainly is the case that you, especially the chair and the vice chair, the, you know, experts can say, all right, here's a grant, hey, can we pursue this? Then it's not an action of the commission, then it's staff member to staff member, what do you think about pursuing this?
Right.
But that's not an action of the commission, because the
No.
action of the commission, we would need to say, okay, hey, we'd really like to do this. Then it goes to council. Council sees, oh, we'd like to do this, we're gonna refer it to parks. Then parks staff takes a
Then
look at it.
We're adding to it, not streamlining.
If
Because at
we
the end
do,
of the day,
the
we're
way,
not-
what I just described is what currently happens.
But I mean, I guess I'm looking at also the language of what you're saying here is that you'd like the authority to have this commission submit grant applications. And we don't have the financial standing to apply for grants, I mean, period.
On our own,
On
right.
our own.
That's
As a
right.
commission, we can't apply for grants unless there's something out there that says specifically sustainability commissions can do it. But I can't imagine that would ever be given that kind of a authority. We'd have to have some fiscal,
Right, and actually,
Some budget line
submit
item.
was not the word I was looking for, actually. It was
You have it in there
maybe
twice.
Start.
Submit.
It's in there twice.
Yeah.
Really want-
It was
Well, they can just
pursue.
say-
Pursue it.
Was
Can
the
I
word
just-
I was
or
looking
initiate?
for. Or initiate, even better.
But I don't think we need any permission to do that. If we
I do,
find,
Randy,
if
I
we
do.
find, if we see a grant out there that we can notify parks, there's this grant out there, do you need our help to get it? I mean, we may not even need to write it or anything, we just.
Must have some autonomy to,
Of course they do, but I'm just saying to you that
Like,
there
to make
is
that
no
decision
hour
whether they wanna
in that
go.
action. That, there is no hour, or I'm the staff member, there.
yeah.
Be somewhat staff member. There is no hour, there is no your in that action. That's just a phone call, hey, Parks Department, would you like to pursue this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds like a great idea. That's not an action of the commission.
Right,
Why do we need it to be an action of the commission?
we don't.
Well, I guess because then we talk about it as a commission.
We can still talk
We'd
about it, we
agree.
can still talk about it, we can
Talk
do it as
about it.
information.
Well, you,
Actual.
then, I mean, it would, then you could talk about it after the fact.
So how would it, if we make a phone call to the Parks Department to
Yes.
ask them to start a grant, then would our like volunteer hours just kind of be off of our official record then? Or would we just work with them to say?
I think what you could do, I mean, if
Case
you
by
wanted to
case.
say, I mean, maybe to, you know, make a Solomonic choice here, maybe you could adopt a way of working with department staff to submit grant applications. Once the department staff says, yes, we'd like to pursue that, then the Sustainability Commission can use the work groups to help support those applications.
Right. Mhm.
That's a possibility. So that, my concern is that if it's just a phone call, then what's the commission doing?
Mhm.
How does the public know what you're doing?
Mhm.
I
And
agree.
yeah, and that's good, I understand that, because it's confusing to me, like, I'm just supposed to call or email the
Right.
Public Works Director to figure this out, but that's like
Well-
my other position, not as part of the commission, like, I just know how that works.
Okay,
So if there is a formal process, then, and actually it could be to our benefit, coming from the commission rather than just me randomly emailing them also.
we could, we
It's
could
just
get,
credibility.
we could get it
From this
on our
official-
record by making it an informational as a report I've talked to Parks about this grant and they're gonna pursue it. Then
That's
it's on the
something
record,
else.
then it's,
But then you want to make, you would, I think it would be important to make sure that there's activity
Mhm.
and decision-making around that on the
Yeah.
commission. Otherwise, then it's just Parks doing it.
well, and maybe it should just, I mean, I think if we find a grant and we go to Parks, and then I see us as being supportive facilitators. If they need our help, we help. If they don't need our help, why would we, why?
So
Because we-
Why would we take on the work? If they don't need, if they say, thanks, we got some time, we can get this covered, we didn't
Because
know
we can
about
be a
this.
conduit to make things happen where
Right,
they
I-
might not otherwise happen.
I think in the process, maybe what we're gonna get stuck on, and this probably goes back to what Ned's thinking about, is you're saying we, okay? So who's the we? If you come up with a grant that you think would be appropriate for Parks Department, do the research, whatever, approach Parks, talk to them, that is you as an individual or as an alder. But that's not the commission. At some point, we have to discuss it and
Okay.
agree that it's an
Okay,
actionable item.
and that could be on our agenda. If I find something, I could bring it to for discussion,
Yeah.
and this commission could then say, it wouldn't have, when I said we, I meant from the commission, I didn't mean
Right.
from me.
Well, right, but
From the
at some
commission-
point, one of us is gonna come up with an idea, because, Julia writes grants, I write grants, I'm assuming.
And he
you
wants
all-
to write it.
You want to write a grant.
Okay, yeah.
I want us to have the authority to initiate a grant.
And we don't right now.
I don't believe so.
Correct.
Not as a commission. no.
Yeah, I think
Because we're
anything we can
advisory.
do to give ourselves a little bit of, I guess, influence and lend our services in an official, not off the record way would be optimal.
Pursue is the best
Pursue
language?
or
I don't know, that's
initiate.
what I like
We won't be
pursue
able
better,
to
but
pursue.
We
yeah.
wouldn't really be able to pursue.
So do I have a motion to amend this then?
Motion to amend, submit to.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Initiate.
Wait, who's making the motion and
There's a motion
seconding?
from Ned to,
Amend it?
Amend it to pursue.
Wait, hold on, and who's seconding it?
Feel free.
Well, let's-
If there's more love for initiate.
I would,
I
I
don't have
like it.
dogs.
Okay,
Yes.
wait, okay.
can we
I
say,
second the pursue one.
can we say pursue?
In pursuit.
Amend the item to
Initiate and pursue.
say,
Initiate and pursue.
Sure.
Yeah, initiate and pursue, there we go. Get them both.
Initiate is the start of the process of pursuing.
To,
Yeah.
Pursuing would involve some research,
Yeah.
right? I mean, meeting with staff possibly, so initiate
Pursue.
and pursue.
hold on.
We have to replace submit with two other good words.
And I'm in
Have the
support of
final
submit to it, but that doesn't sound
Authority
like we
to
can do that.
Initiate and pursue, what's
Or
mine?
just pursue, I think.
Just pursue, that pursue is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Pursue grant, applications or grants?
Grants.
Grant applications.
Well, not,
Grant.
Grants.
I think just
Grants?
we don't have to
yeah.
pursue the application, right?
Right, just
That
Of
limits
the
us.
city.
We found
Right,
it.
grants on behalf of the city, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
actually,
this is what
that's
it
where that
says?
initiate would come in. You pursue a grant and initiate an application. But
Yes.
that's,
Right, we don't need, that's just pursue a
That's
grant.
just-
Get the
Just like
application
IE and
done.
EG. Discussion with possible action on a request from the Sustainability Commission, assigned staff, to have the final authority to pursue grants on behalf of the city.
I like
All right,
that.
so the
Yes.
motion was Ned, the second was Julia.
Hold on. I'm not that fast.
Well,
Okay.
let me, for discussion,
Mhm.
will council, I guess I would, balk at the language there and say, well, wait a minute, they can't also submit those grants, and there's nothing in what we're saying right now that would stipulate that we can't also submit the grants. So should we tag that on to the end?
Sure, why not? Lay it on me.
While respecting the authority of city council for
How about,
submission, something along
how
that
about,
line.
how about,
With final approval line with the city.
look, pursue grants on behalf of the city, pursue grants,
Subject to final
working
approval of council.
working with departments?
So for the department has to submit an they have to get approval to even submit an application.
No, they
No.
usually just inform the committee
Okay.
They
and the
form.
council that
So
they're
council
doing that,
doesn't,
usually.
we don't want to add the need.
It would be pending final approval from council before submission though. Because if
Okay.
we can't say, yes, the city will kick in $50,000.
Well, no.
Without council.
Right, we're not,
but again, we don't have fiscal authority to actually do any submissions ourselves.
right, so we're not submitting.
So we're not submitting.
I still think, yes, I agree. I don't know that the way it's written, I think it might not be that clear to somebody sitting on
Mhm.
council.
So how would you make it clear?
It has to recognize that the grants can't be submitted until there's full city council approval. So I guess ending it with
How,
pending full city council approval prior to submission.
But isn't it more at the discretion of whether the department wants to do it?
yeah, how about something about the, with the, let's see, authority to pursue grants with departments on behalf of the city? Trying to make it simple.
Yeah, actually, if you add with departments, then that,
By default, automatically puts them into the approval process.
yep.
Cool. Yeah.
Right.
So does that mean we would only ever be able to pursue a grant, when we'd work in conjunction with the department then?
Well, how else could we do it anyway? We can't do it on our own.
Can you instead say, subject to final approval by the city? And then that can be the-
I don't want to go there, because then I think that ties us up more. I think that just adds another, I think if the council members are going to think that they're approving things along the path that we'd rather not, that they were approving. I mean, it's just going to bog it down. I think if we start using that kind of language, they're going to say, hey, we didn't approve this, you know, I mean,
Sure.
I don't want to use that
Well, let's
language.
also, maybe we should take out the word final authority.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say authority.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about we'd always be working with the department regardless of what the
Yeah.
proposal
Well,
would be.
yeah.
So with department, and then departments would take care of any kind of conduit of committee and council approval or informing.
Is there a project that you could imagine that would just be like outside funding that would be a community maybe that no department would be involved in?
Sure.
Sure, well then that.
I don't know, I mean, if it's happening in a park, then it'd be park, right? If there's something community-wise,
But if it's,
happening,
it could be Friends of the Park. It could be,
That's still through the park department.
well, no, they're
No,
usually
Friends of
separate.
Wildlife
separate.
Sanctuary is separate
Separate.
501c3.
I think you're, by putting the department in, you're
Limiting it?
You're
potentially limiting it.
to the- You're limiting it to,
Yeah.
but at the same time, if it's not something that's relevant for a department, you have to get the approval. I mean, if we're pursuing a grant on behalf of the Bear Creek Foundation,
Right,
Oh, then we
does it
don't-
matter to the city? that
as
we're
long as
pursuing
there's
that
no
grant
money's
application?
obligated or,
Coming in.
That's-
Right.
So I think, and if it were, you come back around to the city department, to the Parks Department, let's say, and say, okay, there's an obligation to match,
Mhm.
10% on this grant. Bear Creek Foundation is gonna get most of it and do the work, whatever else. Then you'd have to go and come back around, but
so we need to add some more words.
no.
Are you sure?
I
We need to take out some words?
think, no,
No, I think-
I'm just
I think-
clarifying there, because I
Right.
think, I'm watching, kind of looking at Celestine there and saying, she's kind of like,
Will you please read what you have?
absolutely. To amend the item to say, discussion with possible action on a request from the Sustainability Commission and assign staff to have the authority to pursue grants on behalf of the city.
What happened to departments?
Well,
I-
we
I-
just decided
because
it was
there
limited.
There was back and forth, so I took it out.
I feel like, I don't I think that's good, but I mean, it implies to me when you say the city that some department or somebody's gonna have to be involved at that point, right? I mean, we can't, there's just not a situation where you're gonna get a grant going through the city without
How about
involving
say this
somebody.
in conjunction with this? Well, no.
What do you think, Randy? What's gonna sound good at council? Because we know, we don't want council members to be under the impression that we're gonna be obligating the city to pay for anything.
Right.
if you're missing initiating, now it's going to sit there.
Oh, we're
It's
saying
true.
pursuing.
There's
We're
no
saying pursuing.
basis for us, and it's
Pursuing
not implied here
grant.
that we would be able
What if you
to
said,
obligate funds.
pursue grants to further the goals of the commission?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because then,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes out approval.
And it tells us why we're pursuing the grants.
right,
Flexibility.
Do we want to add something like with departments or outside organizations?
yeah, I think that's fine. To further,
Or could you just say with the city or So it's not just, not departments, just with the city or outside organizations? or
Well, I
something?
think, like I said earlier, I think that if you had the
Yeah, I want departments.
departments, because the departments then have a process they have to go through, so that
Right.
gives assurances to city council, right, that, yeah, okay, it's coming to the department. Outside organizations, okay, they can do whatever they want.
This is what I have. Discussion with possible action, and by the way, so the agenda went out, right, so everyone sees the agenda, and then the report that gets reported at council, which will be for the April 1st meeting, is basically what action came out of the, so people could see the original item, and then what they'll see is an item that has been amended to adopt, okay? Discussion with possible, because you know, Ned, the change, of course, is that there aren't long minutes, they're just legal minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Discussion with possible action on a request from the Sustainability Commission and assigned staff to have the authority to pursue grants to further the goals of the commission. Oh, this needs work. Acting with.
Can't we just say pursue with departments or outside organizations
It needs another verb.
for, in pursue of the,
So,
put, right after
Departments.
pursue, put with departments or outside
oh, okay,
organizations.
yeah, because it needs another verb. Hi, sweetheart.
So right after pursue,
So,
why pursue? Why not pertain?
Get that one counted?
So your next council meeting is on April Fool's Day?
Yeah,
That's
my first
It's
election.
gonna be in you and your element, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
so this is what I have.
My first election was in April Fool's.
Really?
First time I ran.
Discussion with
Sign
possible
things to
action on a request from the Sustainability Commission and assigned staff to have the authority to pursue grants with city departments or outside organization which further the goals of the commission. A lot of dependent clauses, but
Yeah, that works.
Sentence to diagram.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
yes, okay?
All right,
Yep.
So that is what I have. I have a motion by Ned and a second by Julia.
All right, so all those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion passes.
Okay. And now we're back to the other informational item, which is an update from commission members on goals and projects.
Anybody have any updates? And then you had a juicy one on the way in.
Sure. I had a chat with Alderman Weary regarding our renewable energy goals. And I think he wanted some clarification as far as what would the city be liable for if we don't hit 100% renewables by 2050. I told him it was my understanding that that's a target. It's not a set in stone. Somebody
I
has to
told him.
pay somebody anything if we don't hit it. I mean, I think we will hit it. So, but also too, he had a question about where would the money come from, and I let him know, it's my understanding that the budgets have been very tight recent years, and that money to switch over to renewables, what we're looking at as a commission, first and foremost, we're looking for grants, but that any other funding mechanisms that would have to take place would probably not be out of the general budget. It would be more looking at larger scale bonds, or city, I don't know, does the city go to referendum ever? County does.
For term limits, we did.
Yeah.
That's true. So,
Yeah.
I guess, you look at a referendum or a
Right.
bond, but right now we're looking at grants, and we're not asking the city council to find money in the budget that isn't there.
Aren't you coming up with like a strategy too, and like maybe a roadmap kind of would help
Yeah.
this whole conversation in general with everybody?
Yeah, I got the impression that what we submitted to council wasn't, I guess, binding for the city in any way. Was he interpreting it as such?
Yeah.
Oh, this is in response to what you.
What we
Yeah.
talked
Yeah, that
about
is
last
the plan.
month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that was the question, is it binding?
Mhm.
And I don't see it as
No,
that way.
no.
You know, it's a fair question, and
Which
where's
I
the money
mean-
gonna come from? It's a fair question, so. I think there's avenues that we could pursue and that the city council can pursue that don't necessarily touch the general operating budget. So,
And if it does, it's up to the council to decide.
Mhm.
I mean, I had the conversation with him. It's frustrating. That kind of pisses me off, actually. I said the exact same thing to
Don't
him,
let the
and
record
he just totally ignored me.
swear words.
Blew me off, huh?
It's already on.
I don't
Jesus.
know about that, man, I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I do.
Yeah, well, I think, what was.
For swearing.
Uh-oh.
What was laid out in the work plan, I think, suggested that every project or policy goal that we would bring to council would have some more concrete, cost analysis behind it. So I think that he's getting a little far ahead of himself, but I think that, yeah, it's good to know that that's where he's at, and hopefully that means he'll support any initiatives that we bring to him if we think about some of those concerns. I think they're on the horizon. Cool. Did anybody else have any other updates?
Did you have anything from WPS?
Yeah.
Pass that off to you.
Yeah, no, totally. So yeah, Ned got me in contact with Mike Moore from Wisconsin Public Service, and we got together and talked last Tuesday about, I guess, just the renewable energy portfolio of Wisconsin Public Service. Right now, they have about 10% of renewables. Kind of talked about some of their long-term goals. There's some really promising developments with wind projects, and then like a solar farm, utility-scale solar farm in northern Manitowoc County. And then they just merged with We Energies too, so in southwest Wisconsin, which is technically We. So they're just starting to get into utility scale renewables, and we talked about some smaller things that they'd be willing to partner on in the future. But it was a good introductory meeting, good to establish a good contact, and yeah, they're just curious to stay in contact with us as we formulate our goals. That's about it.
Is it worth mentioning the what is it, the climate coalition, whatever, that I emailed you about? You had a good response to me.
Oh,
I don't know
the
if you guys
Citizens
just
Climate Lobby?
mentioned that they wanted to
Mhm.
potentially in your response.
Yeah.
So the Citizens Climate Lobby here locally
Hmm.
wanted to potentially come to and present to us.
Mhm.
And then, and I thought your response was good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're a really awesome group, and I'd recommend checking them out. They have a pretty singular policy goal of the carbon fee and dividend, which is a federal thing. So I think what they wanted to ask us to do was to submit a resolution to council, which basically says the city endorses a piece of federal legislation, which I know other cities have done and they've worked on, but especially as we kind of get through our first year as a commission, I think we could have more impact if we focused on local solutions and local specific policy recommendations. But if we do want them to come and present as an informational thing, I'd be open to that, or they do great work in the community, so definitely check out what they do.
So I have a couple things.
Mhm.
So first of all, we have transit and water on tap. For,
Randy.
let's see, for
Awesome.
April and May potentially. And then the departments that are left are administration, which includes like IT, clerk's office, media. Lot of,
Am I missing something?
Water
Present-
on
Water on
tap.
tap.
Get it, water?
Yeah.
so the presentations
They're
from
going to be
departments.
Oh.
So which
Oh, you
ones?
mean it for this?
Yes.
commission?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I'm like, what am I missing?
Yes, so sorry, Julia.
And I'm sorry, when you say tab, I did not think water.
Right, because of course,
I don't know either, so I was just like, okay.
you're thinking of some fermented.
So there's that whole thing, and then that's the beer.
Maple.
Right.
Maple.
Definitely.
So, water utility and transit commission, I'm sorry, transit, Green Bay Metro, I've asked them to come present here.
Okay.
So April and May, and then what's left, the departments that are left are police, fire, administration, which is clerk, finance, purchasing. Purchasing might be interesting.
Mhm.
Rick is a very knowledgeable person too. So that's administration's finance, purchasing, clerks, assessors, IT, which includes media, law department, mayor's office. I always go in order. HR, and that's it. So we've gone about halfway through.
Cool.
And like I said, water utilities quasi department. The other thing too is that Mr. Vanderleest from District 11 had made a communication to the Finance Committee, asking about the financial impacts of the work plan. So I went over those financial impacts with the director and assistant director of the finance department. They manage the finance committee, and I presented yesterday at the finance committee. Essentially, everything on the work plan at this point is really just staff time, which at this point is mostly me. So very little impact to the budget, since I don't get paid any extra for more hours.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to update you that was a question from council, and we did. Now it goes to council on the 19th, but the commission received it and placed it on file, which meant that they didn't do anything.
All right.
I was, I guess I'm glad not, my update is I was thinking of, or I was trying to get in touch with Steve Grenier and
Mhm.
Public Works, because there's a Wisconsin DNR stormwater planning grant, but it's due in April. So, and based on just even our conversation and what we just talked about, clearly that wasn't even gonna, like, I didn't have the even authority. I guess I could approach it from a different angle.
Yeah.
But there's other, so that's not gonna happen for the green infrastructure code audit.
Mhm.
And are you sure we haven't applied already?
Well, when they came to present, he said they never go out for grants. So
Okay.
and so my guess is no. But, and also that one would be a good follow-up with, planning too. First too, because they could both be, I should go talk to planning about that project too. So.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, obviously the DNR one's not.
When in April is it due?
The 15th.
Okay.
So tell me if that's worth pursuing or not.
Depends on what's in the grant.
What kind of match?
Yeah. And
There's
also-
no, I don't think there's any match required, actually.
Well, then how long is
It goes a lot
it,
faster.
Yeah.
The grant,
Like how complicated is the application?
I don't, it depends on the person who wants to do it.
So
If
then-
they have a person like ID'd who's gonna write it,
Right.
like I can help provide a lot of the language, and the stormwater, it has to be from Public Works because there's a lot of, the stuff to fill in is
Oh.
stormwater related, like information.
Okay, yeah, because that's where the stormwater
So that's where.
specialist is located, and the engineer.
Yeah, so so it totally depends on the staff capacity to help write, you know what I mean? It's not a bad application, and I have a successful grant text from another one for the city of Superior. So, for the same project,
Okay.
basically.
You want to make an appointment with me, we can talk
Sure.
about it, maybe I can get,
Do you think it's worth, I guess, I thought after, okay,
You
yeah.
can do it.
Is it worth pursuing, farther conversation
I think
about
it's
it?
worth another conversation. I mean, the timeline is tight, but,
Okay, so I should go email you first?
yep, and let's just set something up and see if I can get other people to come and join us and talk.
It would be great from somebody from planning, and then,
Yeah. Let me see if I can make that.
that's otherwise, if we miss that one,
Mhm.
we could write a pre-proposal to the Fund for Lake Michigan, which is a foundation grant, and I don't think they have much, or it's gonna be in kind, and we can do stuff like that potentially, and they've funded this project too in other cities.
Do you know what kind of,
Hmm?
I'm not familiar with.
They changed their process, but they have they just write a pre-proposal and then they'll disperse, they'll make funding decisions 4 times a
Do you know
year.
what kind of funding
This
uh,
will cost?
they're providing?
Oh.
Yeah, like dollar amounts?
Oh, that could be anywhere from, it would be enough.
Is it a small?
For this, I mean, anywhere from, why, are you thinking too
No,
small?
I'm
It's
just.
too small for them?
No, I have no idea what it is. I mean, I just,
The
is it
the
a
code
$5,000
on
grant?
it, it
or is
depends on the size of the
$50,000 or is it-
municipality.
Okay.
So because this is a city, it would be probably the biggest one I've been involved in, so I would go to a planning consultant and find out how much we should apply for to pay, to get funding to pay for it, basically.
Are you familiar with Nusk?
Because a small municipality, like a tiny, like a town would be like under, like 10 or under.
Oh.
But, yeah, I think Superior was more than that.
Have you ever worked with Northeast Wisconsin
Mhm.
Stormwater
Yeah,
Coalition?
they-
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that was a good resource there or not, because there's a lot of consultants in that group too. A lot of consultants in that group. A lot of planning or engineering firms. So,
Mhm.
But no-
Yeah, yes, there are,
Yeah.
so. And maybe the city already has one. I'm not promoting any consultant, I would just be going to my source as a,
Right.
how much would this cost? So. It wouldn't be so. Does that make sense? All right, so.
Yeah.
So, okay, this one would be potentially a good one.
Okay.
Especially if they've never applied for a grant.
Let's put our calendars together after this is over.
I think, this is kind of random, but this year, it looks like the PCB cleanup is gonna end. So it's been 10 years. This is like a huge deal, so,
Mhm.
and
This-
this is like this, in the history of this river, it is a big deal that this is ending, and it's really great to be here at a time like this, so
Sure, it's
there's,
I thought they were gonna end up next year.
I don't know, it was
This
today
year-
when I talked to somebody, it was
Okay.
supposed to be this year.
I thought they
So
were
is there something that the
dredging and
commission would
capping
like
this
to
year.
do?
Yeah.
I just thought I'd put on the radar that the DNR is definitely gonna wanna do a celebration, the Clean Bay
Okay.
Backers, this is
Oh,
our whole
okay.
thing too, so
Mhm.
I would just put it out there as a but now Mark is
Maybe, I don't
questioning
know,
whether
I
it
just, I'd have
is.
to go back through, they
So
come to,
you
they
would-
come to our harbor commission and give updates periodically, and
I don't know, they're outside of the mouth of the river at this point,
yeah, but they're,
so,
depends on if they're capping or dredging. If they're
So.
still dredging, then there's, because they're gonna be doing the whole East River turning basin area and doing up East River this summer for a while as well, and I didn't know if that would literally muck up the waters. Because I know that they're putting up some kind of barrier in the East River, and then they're gonna have to remove those, and then they may be doing more capping closer up.
oh, because of the WPS site right
Yeah,
there.
there's a variety of things, but
Okay.
they may know, we can get in contact with somebody, I don't know who you talked to offhand, if it was somebody from
The
Tetra Tech.
AOC coordinator,
Okay. Yeah, from DNR.
because she wants to work with it doesn't,
Cool.
anyway,
Cool.
hopefully, I mean, they've been
We've just
saying
heard-
that
we've just
2
heard
years
it.
in a row, they've said it's next year, so.
Yeah, yeah.
It was supposed to be like 2017 was the original
Yeah.
date, so. Anyway, big deal, I'm just putting that, just so we can start to, and maybe our commission wants to be definitely a partner.
Yeah.
I think
In
that.
a celebration like that would be a good
Yeah.
idea.
Cool.
I don't know, I'm kind of
And
dreading.
hopefully
I get
it's
all
now.
sorts of numbers.
Hopefully I didn't
So
get you
don't-
excited for next year.
I know, right?
For 2020, because no one's gonna be paying
We
attention.
could just get excited every year for when it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
You can order a banner that says one more year. Never did more. Hang it from the bridge.
That's awesome.
Celestine, last month we talked a little about energy numbers.
Yes, remind me, please.
As far as how
Oh,
can, how can
baseline.
we pull in data, baseline usage data
Right.
from the different areas of the city?
Mhm.
So just as a reminder, if I know you said you think about like how to pursue
Right, how to get that
those
information.
conversations, yeah.
And then you would, isn't there a framework where, or do we have to be part of something in order to get a framework for us to better tabulate that baseline number?
Mm.
There's gotta be examples of
Right.
other cities who've
Yeah.
done
Yes,
what you're asking.
that's what I'm
like,
asking.
What's the method?
Right.
Maybe Eau Claire did, I don't know.
Yeah, so one thing that we could do I don't know if it'd be ready by the April meeting, but maybe the May meeting. Renew Wisconsin is a statewide group, and they're very, like policy focused. And and technical focus. They're working on a local government toolkit, so a lot of different ways that local governments can look at renewable energy usage. So I will actually see their
Wait, renewable energy usage or just the baseline of what?
both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so looking at everything and then figuring out how we can make that transition. So I think in their like toolkit they're developing, like the first step is just figuring out like what cities are doing.
Okay.
So they're not done with it, but I'm going to see the person who's leading that next week, and I can get them on cue to potentially come to present to us.
That would be great, and I think that it would be great to get that baseline, like how to do that and what that looks like
Mhm.
on the record.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because we were actually having a conversation today about energy, energy usage, but of one particular type. And so I do think that certainly departments have tabulations of what we're using. The question is like, you know, I don't know if it's just as simple as pulling up a bill and looking at it, or is there something more to it? So, I'm putting this in my calendar, and,
What about Green Tier? And
Yeah.
where is that? Because
So-
they have resources.
right, so I sent it to Steve, to the Director of Department of Public Works. He wanted our law department to review it, so our law department is reviewing it as well as the actual, so the resolution, so she's looking at the resolution as well as the project. So that's what she is looking at. Let me just put this on my calendar.
Is the law department going to come talk to us at some point too?
The law department could come to, I mean, I'm not sure what renewable, how
No,
they're.
but if they are getting sent things from us in general, it's
Mhm.
probably,
Absolutely.
and they have a say on how things are written.
Absolutely.
Or input in.
They should, I mean, they're obviously, I mentioned law department because of the department, but yeah, they don't have any particular sustainability goals, but if you would like to hear about how they give input to departments, then I think that would be worthwhile. Let me just put this in my
Yeah, they don't.
Because otherwise they could, yeah. I think involving them earlier than at the end is
That's a good
probably.
So
can you send me something
on Renew?
on baseline data, not renewable necessarily?
Oh, Renew is the name of the organization.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk to Heather, is her name, that's putting together the local toolkit.
Because maybe we can just do it all at the same time, so she can
Yeah.
make a presentation and I can start, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take
Yeah.
to get the information.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they're, like, this is like kind of a new initiative for them, so I'm not sure if it'll be ready. They said April, like the first week of April, so it might be April or May. So I'll
Okay.
follow up with you like next Thursday.
Perfect, yeah, that's when I put it in my calendar.
Okay, perfect.
Some point in the future, not April, May, and I won't be here in May. I would like to talk about zero waste and what that means and
Mhm.
what we can do with that, so.
So you would like to make a presentation?
Yeah, I do a few. I probably have a camera. Yes.
Okay, so let's say June then?
Can I get back to you on that?
You can, since you're gonna be a European traveler.
That's been like, occupying a lot of my mind, except that, yeah, presentations are also a big part of that. There's so many presentations, it's crazy.
You mean going to Europe has been occupying your mind? or-
Yeah, and the dog and presentations, yeah, I don't mind. The dog is the one that really kills me.
So
Getting-
zero waste,
Zero waste, yes.
okay, so sometime.
June is probably likely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm
July-
writing it down, so I make sure that I have a
July's
list
not
of
happening.
where we
There's a
need
Tall
it to
Ships
be.
Festival.
Well, Tall Ships is at end of July, and I found out that both Dean Hain and Chad Dorsbeck, our other two managers, will both be out of town during that, so that'll be because we're gonna have to have 8 people, 9
Not
people.
July.
We don't have that many staff people. So if anybody wants to volunteer to work Tall Ships Festival on behalf of Port Green Bay, let me know.
Maybe.
Do we get to ride
Seriously.
around on the ships? That sounds like
No.
fun.
It's
No.
pretty awesome, though.
But
You get to be there when I
you
help them
actually-
dock.
You do get, we have, the port is sponsoring the causeway and the booth. So we will have our access to all that area on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's pretty cool. And Thursday night would be catching lines for boats that are coming in.
Cool.
Which really means that their crew jumps off, catches the lines, and you stand there and watch them.
Mhm.
But you can be there Thursday.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. That sounds fun.
Cool.
Do we need to receive and place on file any of our informational?
You know, this is interesting. We had a conversation today about informational items, and while it is certainly the habit to receive and place on file informational items, happens all the time, it isn't necessary. So, if you'd like to receive and place on file, then you can certainly do that.
I want to receive and place on file, receive and place on file.
Move to adjourn?
Wait. We jumped to,
I don't know, are we done?
I
yes,
think
we're
so,
done.
yeah.
So you
Motion
move-
to adjourn.
By Ned, second.
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 Okay.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're
Okay.
adjourned.
We're
All
done.
right.
I think you'd be a natural at
Oh,
that,
shoot.
working at
I
Tall
logged
Ships.
out, but I
Aye.
just-
Aye.
I do that every
Back in.
week. Let me know in July, I might volunteer.